screen right now, and you'll notice that it says Chat GPT. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with what Chat GPT is or what it can do, but I'm just going to show you a quick example. So this is episode number 1 of this video series. So let's jump right into it. And then let me know in the comments what you think about these answers that you're going to get to the questions that I ask. Here we go. In a few words, describe yourself. I'm an artificial intelligence model developed by OpenAI called ChatGPT. So it says I don't have personal beliefs or experiences, but I'm designed to understand and generate human-like text based on the data I've been trained on. Okay, so the other day I was thinking about something. I was watching television, and I noticed that I was watching a program, and I noticed that they were showing pictures and video of the moon. You know, where you live here on Earth, and you look up in the sky, and you can see the moon. And let's talk about the moon. But I'm not going to talk about the moon. Let's see what ChatGPT says about the moon. How many times have we had has the USA been to the moon? Let's see how many times we've been to the moon. Okay, says the United States has landed astronauts on the moon 6 times. And this took place between 1969 and 1972. If there have been any additional manned missions to the moon by the United States after September 21st, after September 2021, I would not have that information. So, the United States have been to the moon between 1969 and 1972. Now let's ask it a simple question. Why haven't we returned to the moon? See what the artificial intelligence has to say about that. Okay, there's a couple of reasons that it's listing, but we're not going to read all of them. But let's see, just for a quick highlight. Reasons, or several reasons why we haven't returned to the moon: cost, risk, priorities, political will. Okay, so after I was watching TV and I saw some pictures of the moon, I thought to myself, and I was wondering, here's my question for you, and you tell me what your answer is. Are there mountains on the moon? Now, before I press enter here, ask yourself this question. Have you ever seen any pictures or videos of a mountain or mountains on the moon? You know, think back to when you were in high school, grade school, if you went to college or something like that afterwards, or just when you're watching television, or even when you see movies or something like that. Have you ever seen any mountains on the moon? Have you ever seen any big hills or mountains on the moon? Now let's see what the ChatGPT, the artificial intelligence, has to say about this question. My question is, are there mountains on the moon? Now, before I show you what the answer is, I'm pretty sure you've come up with your own answer. So you're watching this video, and the question for you is, are there mountains on the moon? Now, in my opinion, I've never seen any pictures or any videos or anything that ever showed any mountains on the moon. So let's see what the ChatGPT says. It says, yes, there are mountains on the moon. In fact, the lunar surface is characterized by a variety of features, including mountains, valleys, highlands, craters. So, here's what's pretty interesting. One of the highest mountain ranges on the moon is approximately 2 miles above the surface. Now, for me, I find that pretty interesting. I actually never knew that. Maybe some of you geology majors or maybe if you were interested in geology or something like that, or science or space, outer space in high school or college, so maybe you might have known, but I don't think that the general public knew or understands that there are mountains on the moon. And what I find very interesting is that the height of that mountain, this mountain range. So let's see. It says Mount Hadley, part of this range, one of the tallest lunar mountains. Okay. Please give a comparison to the highest mountain in the USA compared to the highest mountain on the moon. Give a simple comparison. Let's see. See what it says. Now, I find this extremely interesting. It says, so the highest point on the moon is nearly twice as high as the highest mountain in the United States. Now, what I find extremely amazing about that is how come we've never seen pictures or videos of that? I mean, if you're going to travel to the moon and you're going to see a mountain that's twice as high as the highest mountain in the United States of America, and we don't really see pictures or videos of it. Okay, so when they landed on the moon, let's go back. When they landed on the moon, looks like they were there 6 times. Were they actually near any of these mountains? So let's see. When the U.S. landed on the moon, were the astronauts any anywhere near any of the moon's mountains? Let's see, mountains. Can't spell out mountains. 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 Okay, let me spell mountains correctly. There we go. When the U.S. landed on the moon, were the astronauts anywhere near any of the moon's mountains? Let's see what the artificial intelligence has to say about that. Okay, here we go. Yes, during several of the Apollo moon landings, astronauts landed near or explored areas with significant elevation features. Perhaps the most notable is the Apollo 15 mission, which landed near the Apennine Mountains. The Apennine are one of the moon's most prominent mountain ranges. Astronaut David spent 3 days on the lunar surface, during which he drove their lunar and collected. Okay, the last man to the moon. Okay. Now, they talk about collecting samples and stuff like that. For me, I just find it pretty interesting that I don't ever really see or hear any amazement or excitement that they saw something extremely tall, 2 times the height of Mount Everest. But their primary concern, which is a pretty good concern, was to collect samples and stuff like that of the the dirt and the rocks on the moon's surface. But I think it would be pretty shocking and amazing to find that once you land on the moon, you're looking at a towering mountain. So, in the comments, let me know what your thoughts are on that. And let's see if we can dig a little deeper here. Let's go back up here. So, like I said, if you look right here, it says that that particular lunar mountain is almost 3 miles above the surface. That has to be pretty impressive. I don't think any of us, let alone myself, unless you do some mountain climbing, or I'm pretty sure most of us have driven somewhere where you can see mountains in the distance. But just imagine you're someplace that you've never ever been before, like the moon, and you look up, and almost 3 miles up, it towers above you. And when you return to Earth, there's no, I mean, I'm pretty sure maybe we could search Google or search somewhere and maybe find a slight reference to it. But I, I'm just saying, my opinion is it should be something way more interesting and way more impressive that we would see pictures, video, articles, discussions about these huge mountains that are on the moon. But all I can remember throughout, being little, young, high school, after high school, watching television, watching movies, any time that they've ever shown the moon, it's just been pretty much a flat surface with maybe a few hills, maybe, but never did anyone ever portray the moon, in my experience, portray the moon as something that had huge mountain ranges. And if you look here, there's 3 mountain ranges that they mention. So, in the comments, let me know what your thoughts are. And let's see if I can add another little question here. Did any of the astronauts, did any of the astronauts attempt to climb up any of the moon's mountains? To walk, let's put this in here, walk up or climb. Walk up or climb up any of the moon's mountains. Let's see what the artificial intelligence has to say about this. Okay, pretty long answer here, but let's just check it out real quick. It says, while the Apollo astronauts did explore the hilly areas and ridges, they did not attempt to climb the moon's highest mountains, such as those in the Apennine or Leibniz ranges. The lunar rovers used in later Apollo missions were intended to increase the range of exploration, but even they weren't designed for extremely mountainous terrain. Okay, so I wasn't expecting them to drive a lunar rover up a mountain, but you're just in a place that you've never been. I would just think that you would walk up there a little bit. That's just my opinion. Let's see. During the Apollo 15 mission, astronauts David Scott and James Irwin explored the slopes of a lunar mountain they named Hadley Delta. The area had been chosen as the landing site for its geological diversity and proximity to Hadley Ryle, a significant lunar valley. So, okay, so I don't think I would be more interested in a lunar valley. I would be totally shocked and amazed at at something towering nearly 3 miles into the sky or into outer space. That would be something that would have intrigued me. What about you? While they didn't summit the mountain, the astronauts explored its base and gathered samples of lunar rocks and soil. Okay, yes, we definitely needed that. I'm just saying, I think most people would have quickly gathered the lunar rocks and soil and then walked up at least a little bit to that mountain. Let's see. The rough, varied terrain and limited resources, including the short duration of the stay and the physical exertion in the spacesuits. Okay, I'll buy that. Made climbing the moon's mountains impractical and risky. I can buy that. I'll buy a little bit of that. The primary mission of the Apollo program was scientific exploration with the aim of covering diverse geological areas to gather a wide variety of samples and data. For this reason, NASA prioritized areas where the astronauts could safely navigate and carry out their tasks. Yes, so I will agree that safety most likely played a big part, but I, I'm still swaying a little bit towards more of a focus on what they saw on those mountains. Um, even possibly grabbing a few samples that could be different on the mountain compared to the base of the mountain. Well, let me know your thoughts and what you think, and put it in the comments, and I'll respond. And remember, this is episode number 1, and episode number 2 is coming up. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, click the alert button so that you know when the next episode comes out, and just let me know your thoughts.